So we are saying now, okay, so we were dealing with oil, energy, resources, and all that. Go away from there. Let's come to agri. Let's come to the green revolution and see how that can change the narrative about that. Is that a fact or just another potential dream? Well, I don't have the answers. The answers will be coming from our guest, who incidentally, like I said, is a farmer, but besides being a farmer, is also very resourceful. Is somebody who is saying to us that we can use modern technology, we can look at, well, the way the world is evolving and apply that to how we can rebuild our agricultural resources. So stay with us, get to meet our guests, and then join the conversation because it's all about you. Farming can be sexy, can be something that you can, look, it is elegant, and is that are you saying, is that what you're telling us now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it's been evident around the world now. We are having a lot of youth participate in the sector. They are earning meaningful income from it, and, they are doing it smart, incorporating technology, and when you see them, you are proud to say, yes, I can aspire to be a farmer and be engaged in agriculture.
Well, you can say it's confidence. Now, okay, but Toheeb, let's now look at the major topic. So we are saying, let's forget about oil. Let's revert to what our parents used to do. Carry cutlass, carry cudgel, and go to farm. Is that what we're saying now?
Yes, that's what we are saying now. But what we are saying now is doing it different from the ways our parents used to do it. Okay. Right? But when we look at before, agriculture used to be mainstay of our economy. In fact, it was about more than 60%, although it has dwindled to about 25%. So it has always been. Agriculture is very important. But I like to clarify that when we talk about agriculture as a new oil for Nigeria, that oil is important, but agriculture is far more important when we look at the wider impact. But if you want me to go
we'll go deeper as we are going.
Yes.
We'll go deeper.
Yep.
But you think it is good that we should examine how we can replace oil with agri? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying replace, but if we can exploit more of agriculture, it will be better for us. Oil itself, it has impact on agriculture, and agriculture has impact on oil. So they are mutually dependent, but agriculture has far richer impact than oil itself.
Okay, that is brilliant. I like that. Now, but do you think that Nigeria has a clear national vision on how we can transform? Because you have just said something here now, again, brilliant. The ways our parents used to do it. Is that, can we transform that? Is that what you're saying? That we can actually, do we have that vision that we can transform how we use what our parents were doing, and then let now, like, transgender and put it in a name? Is that
yeah, I would say something that everybody would be shocked. Some people already know. We have comprehensive policy on agriculture in this nation. I remember we have the agricultural promotion policy that runs from 2015 into 2020, and we have another one being established even for the blue economy, economy transformation. There's a way that is linked to agriculture itself. These policies are there, but the implementation, and the evaluation is what are missing. When you look at those policies, they are well created, and you see that they understand the realities of what
we need to do
happening in the space and what we need to do, but the implementation is the problem, and the evaluation. When you implement something and you evaluate it, how has what we implemented affected, then what are the downside that we can work on? It makes it more effective.
Now, it is good the point you have, that slack. Is that slack systemic? You think it's something that is permanent in the way we are evolving as a nation? Is that what you're warning us about?
I wouldn't say it is permanent.
Yes.
But I would say that number one is that there's a gap between the policy makers and the implementers.
Yes.
Right. When they establish policies and they disburse the budget, and those that they don't look at those that are implementing them. What are they doing? Right.
With what they are giving to them.
What they are giving to them. So there's a bit of disconnect. Yeah, but even I would say that sometimes we have a gap between the research and the policy makers themselves. Much as we have this policy that, things happening in the nation keep evolving, and the policies should evolve as well. So for policies to evolve, they have to be in line with what is happening in the research space, talking about agricultural research, extension. Those are the people in the field. They know what is going on, what is happening with the people, the rural people and all that. So if you can take learnings results from these people, then our policy will be more responsive, right? It will be more impacting on the lives of the people.
I like that, because when we were growing up also, agriculture, like you said, those who actually work in the field, in schools and all that. Now, but is that being translated to what we are doing today? Do you think that educationally, that agriculture is also now being factored into what we are learning in school? Do you think it's being done?
Yeah, it's been done, especially when you look at what the current Minister of Education is doing, trying to incorporate vocational study, trade, agriculture and all that. But the problem is that it's more of theoretical, not really practical. You understand? Okay, these are things to do in agriculture, entrepreneurship, but you've not really engaged your hand physically, right? But in the agriculture space, like in the school that I went to, we tried a bit on that, did farming and some bit of agribusiness, right? Sales of what we actually produce, right? So you have this sort of idea that is going to expand your thinking beyond the four walls of the university when you are done. But it's not the case like we see for many other schools, right? So it's what I would implore that should be, adopted across the board. Yes.
Okay. All right. I like that again. Now, Nigeria loses about 40% of produce to post-harvest waste and all sorts of, implications. So, what practical steps can we take? I just mentioned one now about the retraining or proper training of those who actually can practice, the business. But what can we do to make sure we can eliminate those wastes that are happening? 40%. So if you produce, let's say, groundnuts, before you know it, 40% of the groundnut that you have produced, that you have harvested, wasted. Why?
Yeah, so I like that you actually mentioned that post-harvest losses. Because when you look at the world itself, we have about 1.3 billion post-harvest loss. And when you look at the globally, when you look at the developing world and the developed world, is sort of equally distributed, 630, and I don't know the figure for now, but Africa has one of the highest post-harvest losses in the world, and Nigeria has the highest losses in Africa. So the problem, one of the ways that we can combat that is actually through demand data-driven production, because many times we produce,
we don't know the numbers.
You are producing, you don't know the numbers of the demand. You are not able to bridge demand and supply. At the end of the day, maybe we have glut, and another thing is to incorporate value addition, because bulk of what you consume in this country, we want to consume it as fresh, right? But if you are able to, when we have glut, you are able to add value to it, process it into something that has longer shelf life. We'll be able to consume it in ensuing season. And when we waste products, we don't just waste products, we waste resources, we waste time, we waste money. These are resources from the environment. So actually curbing post-harvest losses is the way to sustainably is to ensure environmental sustainability as well. So it's actually a good way to think about it.
Now, this cycle of thoughts that you seem to have generated around agriculture, are you teaching this? Are you sharing it with some of the people that you are mentoring, for instance, that it is secular the way it is? So that secularity, can we also expand it to those who are actually, farming in rural communities?
Of course, yeah. This is what I always teach to people, and I also have conversation about integrated farming, whereby we recycle waste. I've done it before. Growing catfish and growing vegetable on the side. So when I dispose the water, I deploy it to the vegetable, and you see that the vegetable, they actually do very nice. I don't know the magic behind it, but I come to learn that it's a good nitrogenous source. The basic component of fertilizer is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, right? So if you have that cheaply, you are not spending money on fertilizer.
You are producing it naturally from the fish.
Exactly. And the vegetables also consuming the water is a way that this wastewater is not going straight into the environment. They are being, utilized and converted to valuable products that can be eaten. So there's no break in flow of energy. It's more like a food chain.
Okay. Now, that again, I'm also is very brilliant. So now, you're speaking about value addition. Now, processing, and of course, something that we again will seem to be with a negative will be the fact that we don't seem to have the right export, because most of our food products are not produced, they are not processed, they are not well, preserved. So for you to export, you are exporting only the raw materials, as it were, and only for the foreign lands to now process and then return. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that. That is one of the problems that we have, and we have it across several commodities, right? And I'll give you an example. Africa is the hub of cocoa production.
Yes.
Cocoa market is Africa as a whole, and from cocoa export is about, let's say, $3 billion. And do you know how much Germany as a country is earning from
cocoa
products? Is earning twice as much as Africa. Germany is not a cocoa producer, but is doing value addition.
Yes.
And when you look at it, we not only lose job opportunities, not only lose revenues, but those could also add to our GDP.
Yes,
right?
grow the economy. Yes.
So actually talking about processing is very, very processing value addition, not even just value addition, high quality value addition.
Yes.
When you look at cassava itself, you look at the products in that crop itself, you see gari, you see starch and all that.
Yes.
But in this country, we consume gari. That's the least value
of what you can get from cassava.
But when you look at gari, it has the lowest returns in the value addition space.
Chain, yes.
Yeah. When we still have ethanol, have adhesive, we have starch, we have animal pellets and all that. These are the things that we could be exploiting and be making more money from.
If you process cassava.
Process cassava than just gari alone. Okay,
now let's come back to it. So the young generation, they don't see agric as something that is attractive. Many young people look at agric as a poor man's job, because that's our parents who were in agric. Many of them are not very rich. So how do you now change that mentality? How do we reorientate our young ones to look at agric as something that is sexy and something that is attractive for them to want to be involved with?
I think changing the narrative has to do with has to start with our education from school. When let's say now you're putting for admission for medicine and you don't get medicine, they say that, okay, go to agriculture.
Then you say no.
Right? But when you look at agriculture, agriculture is not just a discipline. It's a science. It requires experts to actually produce food. We are talking about by 2050, our population will double to 400 million. And how we are producing food today
will affect.
Is not going to meet the demand of that population. We have to do it different, right? So we need people that are smart, people that are doing it different, incorporating technology. So if you are saying that now you want to put people that are rejected from medicine to agriculture, you are not, the standards is not being kept that way, right? So we have to ensure that the right people are going into that sector. We have to change the narrative, that the narrative is not for anyhow people, is a specialized discipline, and also that is very lucrative, but it's not a poor man's space.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a lot of rich people, individual, industrialists, entrepreneurs, yes, billionaires in the world, that are actually farmers and into the agro-allied industries, right? So we have to show it, portray the sector, the discipline as a place that is full of opportunities, right? And like Dr. Akinwumi Adesina has said, yes, that coming in short time, the African agriculture is going to be worth trillions of dollars. So you can see the opportunities that we are talking about here. So it's going to require huge investment. So it's a place to be, not just any other place.
Okay, all right. I like the fact that you have referred to the African Development Bank. But the issue now would be that Nigeria has a history of failed agricultural interventions over the years. Yes, the budget will designate some kind of funding specifically for agric, but at the end of the day, just like you said initially, we do not have data to match what we have invested with what we are producing or what we are harvesting. So how do we want to change that? How do you want to make our funding accountable when you now look at agriculture?
But I think I've spoken about this in the past. we have to ensure the process of budget appraisal, right, that people should be carried along. Many of the people, they don't even know that there's a budget for agriculture. They don't even know how much is being dedicated to agriculture. And it's one of the reasons why we are having poor budget performance in agriculture. And to shock you, the budget is very low. Do you know very low compared to the recommended standards, right? There is this declaration that we got to know about, the Maputo Declaration by African head of states. They came together and they agreed that 10% of national budget of every country's budget in Africa should be dedicated to agriculture. Do you know how much is dedicated to agriculture
in Nigeria?
About just a little bit.
About 1%.
1%. And it improved. It improved.
Before it was less than 1%.
It was less than 1%. And why did it improve? Because our budget for last year, doubled. And so the improvements for agriculture budget is not by dedicating more to agriculture itself, but
it is a percentage increase.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we are having. So we need more people to actually participate in this space, to know what is going on in this space, having part of the budget going to where they shouldn't go to, right? They should go to more important places. So
no, but Toheeb, this very insightful what you have just said. But how participatory, how inclusive can this discussion be? How can you make it ground level, grassroots level up? Can you activate it in a way that the rural farmers, the investors or whatever, can they be on the same table to discuss what you just mentioned?
Yeah, it's possible to actually do that, but I think the first way to go about that is ensuring freedom of information, FOI, right? If I wanted to know about the agricultural budget today and I go to the Ministry of Agriculture website, would there be
information there?
This is the reality. It wasn't there last year. I had to go to the website of the Ministry of Finance before I can actually access that. So if we don't have that, how is, it's even easier way for people to participate, right? It's virtual. I can connect from anywhere from the world and see what is, and even before we have this final budget, there should be a way that people can participate in it. We have the appropriation bill before it is eventually finalized. You invite different stakeholders, not just few people, and it is enshrined already before you bring it out to the public and we can query it, right? So is one way that we can actually ensure participation is to actually virtualize it for people to be able to see even before passing it fully. By that way, people can make their contribution. They can critique it.
Yes.
Criticism is not necessarily saying
negative.
Something is bad.
Yes,
we are trying to offer our own opinion to actually make it
better,
more impactful for broader aspect of the society.
I like that again. Now, okay, you just said something about how we can. So, technology, innovation, artificial intelligence, and all that. That is your modern method of doing things. So, are you saying that we can use that to modernize the way we actually invest in agricultural resources? Is that what you're saying? You think Nigeria is capable of doing that?
Nigeria is capable of doing that, but it's just we must plug the loopholes, right? When you look at agri-tech itself, agri-tech is simply the incorporation of technology in agriculture.
Yes.
You see that for the tech ecosystem, our agri-tech constitutes just 4.8% of that space, right? And one of the reasons why our agri-tech is like that is because of funding. Funding is, lacking. And we, let's say now for Africa itself, let's look at globally, the total agri-tech venture capital globally is 16%. $16 billion.
Okay.
And when you look at the proportion for Africa from that, is just about 2% of that $16 billion, right? So
just 2%.
Just 2%. So
of 16, just 2% of $16 billion.
Just 2% of $16 billion.
That is less than $1.6 billion.
Yes. So you can imagine
for the whole of Africa.
For the whole of Africa. So you can imagine how we are shortchanged when it comes to finance in that space. So it's one of the things that we actually have to work on if we are being very serious about it. So, but I give you one of the ways that
That can be.
No, agriculture can actually change things, like, the issue of middle.
Yes.
For instance, farmers, they produce, let's say they produce this potato, so they sell it at farm grade for 15 naira. The middlemen will come and buy it. They are important.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems that we have that actually add to the price of food is the
transportation.
The factors that they bear across the supply chain,
yes.
Transportation and all that, multiple taxation,
yes,
and
yes.
Had their profit. What is selling for 15 naira will now sell for 1,500 in Lagos, 1,500 naira in Lagos. So now we are having this what we call digital supply chain,
yes.
Virtual supply chain. Everybody is knowing what is happening in the market. The farmer is displacing his goods, is meeting with a buyer. There's no middlemen, They are interfacing directly. So farmers, they are able to get better bargain for their produces,
yes.
Right? So that's a way technology is actually enhancing the process of transaction for farmers.
Okay, all right. Again, let's commend Toheeb for that, for letting us see how the future is being redefined through, technology. I don't know how much of that can be applied, across Nigeria. We'll come to it again when we look at the question of insecurity. But before we go for the break, let's give you the number where you can send us your questions or your query or your comments so that Toheeb can react. I don't know where your farm is. Maybe it's in Ekpe, and you don't think that you can use tech in Ekpe, so Toheeb can probably speak up on that. Now, here are the numbers: 080-2654-9376, 080-76. Send us a text message or a WhatsApp. No calls, please, because you cannot take any call. So just text us or send us a WhatsApp. The number again, 076. Toheeb is saying, let's look at agric as a sufficient support to what we are getting from oil and gas. Don't just stay on oil and gas. Oil and gas, yes, is rich in Nigeria, but our agricultural resource can also do better than that. Stay with us. We continue shortly.
The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spread the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
With us is still Close Flow, coming to you from NTA2 Lagos Network Center. We want to thank you wherever you are, that you're in diaspora, you're right back at home, for joining the conversation. The important thing is that it's all about what we should actually give back to the country that we are expecting so much from, and that's what Toheeb is trying to do today. Now, but Toheeb, let's look at your own researches, your practical experiences, your interactions, with farmers in the field and all that. So how can we actually find a way to reduce the risk in agriculture, especially now with the wave of insecurity and all that of challenges that we have across the country? What should be the procedure or the dispensation to remove the heavy risk that farmers will now bear?
I think insecurity itself is a big blow to food production. Food security is responsible for 50% of our food insecurity, right? So it's very important that we address that. But I just want to give a answer that would not go according to the norm, and is actually to look at urban food production, right? So when you look at the population disparity of Nigeria, we have about 56% in rural area, and the rest in urban area. But what we are seeing is migration now, from the rural part of the country to the urban part of the country. So what they are migrating for opportunities. So what we are seeing, what we'll be seeing in the future, that our food producer will be migrating from the urban, from the rural area to the urban area. So now we are having, stress on facilities here. You can't compare the arable land in urban to rural area. But how can we meet this future demand?
Yes.
That comes the area of innovative food production, producing without actually using land. Yes. I've done it before, and I can say it for a fact that it works brilliantly. Farming in sacks, right? Farming without soil, that's soilless farming. Basically, we are trying to use the knowledge of what we know about regular production in the soil. We are replicating the condition, getting the soil, the manure, putting it in this sack, arranging it as if it's the soil profile. Planting there, it's going to come out, produce good fruit for us. So we have...
Now wait, Toheeb, let's wait. Good food for how many people? How many people do you think you can feed from that sack, for instance?
No, it's not even about the
size of the sack.
The size of the sack. We are talking about many people incorporating that, using our bankoli, our backyards and all that. If you start
in the urban centers,
if you start doing that and aggregate all those, do you know how many foods that we'll be having? I would like to remind you that bulk of the food that we consume in the nation is by smallholder farmers, and smallholder farmers is our total food production is by aggregating all these small. You see that it comes with lorry to the urban part, but you wouldn't know that it's pocket of places that are producing that. So we can have that kind of production, in Lagos and other urban centers. So that can actually be a way to help us,
to fight insecurity,
food insecurity, right?
Okay, all right. I like that. That seems to be another flip of the coin, but we still cannot run away from the fact that the insecurity in rural Nigeria would affect food production coming from those rural areas. So what do we do about that?
Okay, that's good. So it's actually important when you look at since the time of the past President Jonathan to the time of President Tinubu, about 100,000 people have been killed to insecurity, and we've had about $100 billion loss to this insecurity, and vast majority of those killed, are farmers, and they are, deserting their farms because it's not secure.
Safe anymore.
There can be no, I like to say it categorically, clearly, that there can be no food security without security, for land, for farm investment, and for lives of the people, for people to actually cultivate their lands, So it's actually very important. But the insecurity itself is complex, right? It's not just only religious, it's political, it's social, and all that. So combating that it has to take this holistic measure. It's not going to be just by military might itself. We have to involve different security apparatuses, the local vigilantes and all that. But as much as we do that as well, we have to govern the nation with trust.
Responsibly.
The issue we are having is that we do not really trust ourselves. There's this sort of strife between ourselves.
Divisiveness.
Even if you conquer the terrorists, how about we in between ourselves? We are having this kind of tribal faction, talking a lot of bad things about ourselves. There has to be harmony. It never used to be like this before, but I think that is actually an opportunity for us to
address this,
reassess ourselves, and think about our future as a people, as a nation. I know that it's possible because it's been done around the world, Rwanda, Ethiopia, and all that. So we can actually learn from those people.
The same thing here.
Do the same thing in Nigeria.
Now, some people are actually saying that the insecurity may have been politicized, just like poverty also has been weaponized to give political gain. Is that what you're also looking at?
There is every possible to actually believe that it can be politicized, because when you look at the poverty politics itself, like people are malnourished, they can't think properly
anymore.
If they can't think properly, they can be easy. It's not that they cannot even vote. Maybe they are physically challenged, but mentally challenged. They can easily be manipulated. Okay, I'm going to give you this if you vote for me. Right. So, but I don't think it's the right way to actually go about that, trying to manipulate people with poverty politics. But because at the end of the day, it makes it hard for people to
be a part of
even makes it hard for people to govern. Because the problem of insecurity we have today is not because of insecurity, is economic problem. That's where we do not see it from. What is the minimum wage? We said that we've increased it to about 70,000 or 100,000. How many people are earning that, right? In a case whereby we are paying this terrorist or
whatever,
they can pay more than we are paying. So that is a problem. The issue of the insecurity is because there are no jobs. The livelihoods of people are being challenged, and if we can beat that, we actually can see our hand to that insecurity that we have. It's an economic problem, not necessarily just insecurity itself. Yes.
Okay, all right. So he has given us another, dimension to to what we are, encountering or engaged with at the moment. But let's quickly thank some of our viewers who are already sending their questions. Chinyere from Ajigule. Chinyere says, "What are the consequences of poor food safety? What
the drinks that are being manufactured, drugs and all that? Yeah. They have to be really addressed. Food that are not safe is a challenge our food security. So that I think the question is how can it be addressed?
Yes.
How it can be addressed is to actually, it can start from the consumers themselves, right? When you see something that is bad, someone selling expired food, you report. You have a role to play. When producers see that consumers are rejecting food that are not
well packaged,
produced hygienically and all that, they have this sort of thinking that we have to do it different, right? But there must be enforcement and regulation at the production end as well. Yeah. It's when we have the NAFDAC, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, they see to things. Because when you look at the impact of unsafe food practices, it's not just domestic, it's international as well. It's one of the reasons why our food exports are being banned. Our catfish, our yams and all that. So we have to look at it. That is actually producing healthy food is a way to actually compete internationally, and earn good foreign proceeds. So that would be my answer to that question.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's Chinyere. Thank you very much. We're waiting for other viewers to let us have their own comments or their own queries on what you can do. Now, you have mentioned some of the things that we need to do, but people are still saying that we have the bottlenecks of problems with agric in Nigeria. Or is it just peculiar to Nigeria? Is it the same thing elsewhere in the world, that we have all manner of issues locking together and not making, agricultural, business to grow in Nigeria? How do you react to that?
So I've written about this in the past, that the problem we face with agriculture is multifaceted, and the solution that we have to give to it must be multi-dimensional. But when you look at their leading factors, and when you look at the hunger hotspot around the world, you see that they have this insecurity. When you look at the Middle East, when you look at North Africa, then when you look at Nigeria and some other countries in Africa, we have insecurity, climate change problem. When you look at this year, the rainfall is not as it used to be. The weather is changing, and we also have side climate change, the issue of purchasing power. Our purchasing power in the nation has been really challenged, and it's been back to issue around the globe and in Nigeria, talking about Russia, Ukraine war, geopolitics, the Naira crunch itself, and, what other thing again that we've had, border closure.
Yes.
Right. So I give you an analogy. Do you know that our rice production went from, was it 2018 or 2015 to 2018 under the administration of Buhari, from 7.1 metric tons to 8.4 million metric tons, right? But in spite the increase in production output, the price of rice went higher, over 500%. Why should there be increase in supply and also increase in price as well? It doesn't really make sense, right? So it shows us that the solution is not just about increasing. People must also be able to afford what you are producing, and in the case whereby the cost of production of local rice in Nigeria is higher than importing rice from Thailand to Nigeria, so it's not even encouraging to the local producers to produce as well. Right?
Looking at the cost,
issue of fertilizer itself, because we produce fertilizer in Nigeria. Do we have the component for fertilizer production. So what we do is actually blend, and we actually source components from places that are under conflict: Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Eastern Europe. So when we have disruption in the supply chain of fertilizer, rice is a fertilizer-intensive crop.
Yes.
It needs fertilizer a lot. So obviously, the price is going to increase, and it's going to impact the price of rice as well. So it's not just about whether we are producing enough or we are not producing. We have to look at other factors as well.
All right.
That.
Okay, so that is it again. You can see the way his insights actually can help us to see how to navigate the issues that our agricultural challenges. We also have Tunde from Ikeja. Tunde says, can food security cause food shortage? Can food security cause food shortage? So you are saying that if the way of the approach or the process of getting food becomes insecure, so can that also bring down the availability of food? Is that possible?
I didn't get that question.
Okay,
right,
so if we have food security, challenges of food security, so our food, maybe you cannot access the farm or the farmer cannot get into the market, can that lead itself into food shortage?
Yeah, food, what I would say is that food unavailability can lead to food insecurity, right? When we don't have the supply like we should have, taking for tomato, like
yes, for instance, yes,
that can lead to food insecurity itself. I can't get the normal nutritional quantity that I should get on time and as required, then it can impact my food security. Yes, food unavailability can impact food security.
Okay, all right, that is Tunde from Ikeja. I hope that has answered your question. Now, so boldly, now let's forget about politics. I don't know if you are a politician, or probably just a partisan citizen, whether you support this party or you don't support that party. Now, boldly, what policy shift do you think we need to break our reliance on the either shortage of food supply or even importing food? How can we break? What do we need to do to rearrange ourselves, just like you said, to sit down and then renegotiate and determine how we can save ourselves from that challenge?
I think one key thing that we have to do is to actually improve our domestic sustainability with input itself. Like I've mentioned, fertilizer,
yes,
all this, they actually impact.
Even storage,
they impact a lot our food security. You might say that you are able to produce, but are you producing the input? Input security itself, energy, all that, and is where we need the African entrepreneurs,
yes,
wealthiest people to actually invest in. I was talking about Dangote going to Zimbabwe, going to Zambia, investing in energy, investing in fertilizer, cement, and all that. So those are the basis of industrial economic industrial growth. So
yes,
and he has done the same in Nigeria as well, investing in oil production, $16 billion
yes,
refinery.
Yes.
So it's why I say that people should not say that agriculture should exist without oil itself. Do you know that we use oil to produce fertilizer?
Yes.
We use oil to run our economy. One of the reasons why food is costly is because diesel is costly. Diesel is used to run many of our machineries.
Yes.
Right. So if we are able to produce those things domestically and cheaply, affordably, then farmers can produce cheaply as well, and people can access food cheaply. So one way to actually go about that is to improve domestic production of essential inputs that are important for food production.
Okay, I like that again. We must dove our hearts to you. Well, we have so many viewers online now. Stella from Surulere is saying that how can we have sufficient safety in the midst of insecurity across the country?
That's a very good question.
Yes.
Because I've said it before that food security
itself
is not possible without
security.
Physical security.
Yes.
So it's actually very important that we see to security itself.
So your appeal is going to the government?
My appeal is going to the government itself, that they should see to the insecurity properly. It's a challenge and it's an opportunity to actually eradicate this and deepen trust, right? We have so many people that are saying that we are being persecuted, right? And in many cases,
it seems like that.
It seems true, but vast majority is not, right? But so we have the right to actually prove that it's not true by doing the right thing, right? And I'm happy that many of the people that were kidnapped recently have been rescued. That's a good development. It shows that they are on their toes, and the president gave this address letting people know what is being done and all that. Not just doing things, also communicate with people, showing feelings that you know what is happening in the nation, and you're doing something, you're working around the clock to have it remedied.
Okay, I like what you just said now. Before we even continue to agree, that's a question of communicating, engaging with the public. Do you think that is a slack in governance in Nigeria? I mean, across the board, not necessarily about this government. Do you think that has been a slack in the way that maybe the government is not communicating properly with the citizens?
Yeah, I think there is a slack in government, because many times there are things being, projects being rolled out that will benefit people.
And they don't know.
But the communication is not there. So people at the top are expecting the people to know. And the people at the bottom do not know. So there's a gap. And eventually, when your administration is done, they tell you that you didn't do anything because you didn't inform us. So you have to communicate with people. It's a democracy. Carry everyone along. Let us know what is being done. How we are, not about what is being done. How are we going to assess it? You make it transparent enough. You lay down the procedures to actually assess those things. It makes it easier for people.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Now, before leaving, if there is something that you can change in the narrative of how we have actually developed our agricultural resources, or how we have benefited from our agricultural, humongous, because Nigeria has one of the largest arable land in the whole of Africa. So if there is something you can change, one singular thing that you can change that can actually help us to now lock up these gains you have mentioned right now, what would that be, and why that choice?
Okay, so before I go with that, I just want to mention a few things why people should see that agriculture is a very good bet, to make, right? So agriculture, like I said before, contributes 25% of our GDP, and also the efficiency of converting resources given to it. Do you know that in 2023, the amount given to it was $523 million, and it converted it to $0.7 billion. That's 25% of our GDP. 179 fold than you would see for any other sector.
Multiplied by 179
fold. When you look at amount dedicated to agriculture in Nigeria, is lower than you have elsewhere in the world, and the agriculture in Nigeria is still performing and is employing 35% of our workforce, employing people in the rural area, even in urban. And when you look at agriculture as a food system, it's generating a lot of employment, not just cultivating the land. We are talking about entrepreneur, food processors, food distributors, logistics, and all that. But what we must see agriculture now, back to your question, we must see agriculture as opportunity, not as a poverty alleviation scheme. Right? We must invest in it that way.
As opportunity, economic opportunity, not at poverty alleviation.
When you look at the dividends that it can give, then you start seeing why you must, invest in it properly. So this is the right approach to it, because you see that agriculture itself in Nigeria has a funding gap, finance gap of $20 billion. So we have to see a way to remedy that.
Thank you so much, Toheeb Azeez. You have so much to say. And my producer is saying that if you leave him here, he's going to be a professor and he'll be speaking to the next, maybe to the next program. Okay? So, Toheeb, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
We hope to have you again, so we can harvest some of the things that you have shared with us.
It's been really an insightful conversation. Thank you.
All right. Also, until next week, we just say quickly, thank you for watching, and it's bye from us.